is the middle of college football season. Don't you dare take a second for granted. I wish you could see them. Big time tribulation. Well, how are you all doing? Happy Wednesday. We're basically to Thursday. Leaving work as we speak. And, one thing I really have kept just recycling around in my brain since probably the week or two before the season started, and even after the loss to Florida State, even after, all the talk about LSU have, not the same team we thought they were, all this stuff, I've still kind of felt the same thing. And I will still feel this even if LSU lose something like 5 games. I feel that if LSU do not win a national championship this season, it will go down, it will be remembered as a colossal missed opportunity. Maybe not a colossal failure, maybe not like a colossal disaster or some crazy, but huge missed opportunity. And why? Why would that be? Most of the college football powerhouses out there right now don't have a quarterback that can really command, the love that even like a Jaden Daniels has gotten. Yes, there's Penix, there's Hartman, there's different guys across the nation, Caleb Williams, of course. There's different names across the nation, sure, but within the SEC, within the conference LSU play the bulk of their schedule against, who is really threatening us right now? Who is really who is scaring the crap out of you to face? Carson Beck, Georgia? Jalen Milroe, Alabama? Is it this weekend with Jackson Dart and Ole Miss? Many are pointing out that Jackson Dart leads the nation in rushing, SEC quarterbacks, or I think actually all quarterbacks in rushing over Jaden Daniels, and and it's like, why? Because Jaden Daniels isn't running the ball as much as he used to. A lot of those yards have transferred over into passing yards, which is transferred over into victories for LSU and a nonstop dominating, just brilliant offense that hasn't even needed to run the ball really with sustained success to still put up 191.8 rushing yards per game. We haven't even needed a 100-yard rushing game from Jaden Daniels, nothing like that. I think Jaden Daniels leading rushing in this year was 60 or something so far. So, point is, I look across this entire nation, I look across the entire conference, and I don't see anyone that LSU should be losing to. And I'm not saying that out of bias, I'm not saying that out of, that I'm blind to LSU's problems in the secondary. Oh, I see all of it. We just wrote an in-depth, 6-minute long article. Almost every negative stat, every positive stat we could find for DBU, all in one place. I am well aware of the deficiencies within LSU. One of the last pressure ratings within the SEC. I think we're 11th. So, there's problems with LSU. But at the same time, the problems can't, I feel like the problems aren't the ones that can't be fixed. I feel like LSU's issues aren't going to handcuff them as much as other teams. I feel like when you have a quarterback like that, you have skill position guys like we do, you have a front seven with some of those guys that we've got who maybe they haven't popped yet. Maybe we're still waiting on a guy like Mason Smith to pop. But it just takes one game. If LSU do not win a national championship this season, I really do believe that this would be thought of, remembered within LSU history as just a big, big, big miss because of what we've got on this roster. And, it may be a year away. Most of this team may be a year away, developmentally. A lot of the pillars on this team are sophomores, redshirt sophomores, stuff like that. But at the same time, you've got guys in the junior and senior positions littered across this team that you're never going to get again. Brian Thomas Jr., he's going to be gone next year. Of course, Malik Neighbors is going to be a top 10 pick. Jaden Daniels is going to be out of eligibility. Even Greg Brooks Jr., we shouldn't probably even talk about his playing future. But since he's not giving up on that, we're not going to give up on that either. And, Greg Brooks Jr. is out of eligibility as well. So, Mekhi Wingo most likely is going to be going to the NFL after this year. Mason Smith will probably return if things continue in this vein. But, man, if he gets 5.5 sacks, 7.5 TFLs, gets back to that level, just some respectability, he might be all right, we've gotten it back, we're good, we're gone. And so you might think, we're a year away, but some of the pieces LSU lose next year are extremely crucial pieces that I don't feel we have properly replaced on the recruiting trail, either in 2023 or 2024 so far. That does not mean that I have trepidation about the next few years for LSU. But when you're talking about a quarterback entering his second season in the transfer, coming from the transfer portal, he is settled. Our offense is flying. Our defense may be the issue, but that offense is damn near unstoppable. This isn't a season that you can waste. This isn't a season you can just throw away and just be 9-3, 8-4, whatever. This is a season where, seriously, it might be two lost teams in the playoff, and I would not be stunned. I think you're going to see some of the teams maybe in the Pac-12, the best teams of the Pac-12, best teams of the Big Ten get just one loss because of how weak their schedules are. Even though the Pac-12, a lot of ranked teams in there, a lot of talent in there, more so than the SEC this season. They've been playing better. They've been winning a lot more games. But at the same time, the SEC will turn it around at some point, you got to think, as a conference. But if they don't completely turn it on, okay? Alabama doesn't get going. Georgia doesn't really get going. These are teams that, LSU, having already been tested from this first second they went out of the gate, already know they can't lose another game. Totally invested, totally bought in, laser focused, playing for Greg Brooks Jr., playing for a purpose, for basically a mission that this team is on. They want that national championship for Greg. And so, there is so much on the line here, in my opinion, for LSU. Sure, they lose a second game here, just a first in the conference. It doesn't kill their season. But we still have to play Auburn, A&M, Alabama, Florida, still after this, after Ole Miss. Mizzou, a road trip to Mizzou. What are they, undefeated or something? LSU cannot throw away this opportunity. I see so much just deficiency within college football. Not just the SEC teams. There's just so much parity with NIL, with the transfer portal. Teams that Washington are the big challengers to USC in the Pac-12. Utah, no one was talking about Utah. We thought they would be a team that were on the cusp of the college football playoff coming into the season. And usually they disappoint, they lose games they shouldn't. Look at where they are, surviving some of these games without their starting quarterback, setting themselves up for a really nice run here for Utah. And so it's like, you look across the board here for LSU. We get into that SEC championship game against Georgia, who might be like in a coma from just playing just shitty competition at that point. They might be primed for a beating coming into that game. Like, do you really think Georgia can beat LSU right now? I mean, like, okay, I know we have a bad secondary, but can Georgia even exploit that? Very interesting to talk about this. Because I don't know about you, but I absolutely see no one in the future who should be beating LSU. And I'm talking like any of these teams beat LSU, it's a big disappointment. Look at the situation Alabama's in. You're telling me if they beat LSU that's something you would expect and be okay with and be fine with right now just because they're Alabama? Nick Saban, they scare you? Crimson Tide, ooh, like, no. That's a team LSU should be beating. Right? Arkansas, that's a team LSU should have been beating by 21 points. Went down to only 3. So, it's not always going to be pretty. It's not always going to be just absolutely just soaring LSU or just destroying teams. However, if LSU can just get through the gauntlet with wins, I don't see anyone who can catch them, anyone who can beat this team. Like, LSU haven't even figured out their right lineup on defense. There's some receivers they're not even playing that could probably come in and absolutely be game changers. The running game hasn't even gotten going really, and they're still putting up almost 200 yards a game. Logan Diggs, 14 for 97 this last game. Like, there's pieces on this LSU team where we're just waiting to pop. LSU hasn't found out completely who they have on this team. Guys like Deshaun Womack, 5 snaps, 3 pressures, a sack, 2 quarterback hits, 2 tackles. Like, what's that kid capable of? Jordan Jefferson, 2nd in the team in tackles for loss, 10th in the nation in run stopping, and he's barely even played. Braden Swinson, constantly leading the team in pressures each game. One of the standout players against Florida State, continues to play really well game in, game out. He doesn't even start for LSU. My point is, if LSU figure this out, just get a defense that, we're allowing 25 points a game. If we can get that down to 19, 18 points per game, that gives Jaden Daniels just enough room, just enough space. We can't be in shootout after shootout after shootout every single week. I think we're going to be in a few shootouts here. I think we're going to be in probably 4 more shootouts coming our way, whether we like it or not. And we're going to have to gut it through just like this last week against Arkansas. But we can't have that happen every week. We've got to have games where this defense clamps down in the front, helps that secondary out. Secondary's got to make some plays. We've got to figure out the right balance in the secondary. It's about personnel. It's about schematics. The secondary have got to get it together. I trust in Steeples and Cooks to figure this out. They're adjustment kings. But I understand people are going to say, well, where's the adjustments been, Lon? They barely adjust. And I understand that. I think that is completely out of fear because they know who they have. They know their limitations. And I think right now they want to keep it all in front of everybody because they're so worried about getting beat in behind like we've seen. And so, yes, it might be frustrating. There might be games where it's like, what are we doing? They're getting 400 yards on us, getting 10 yards at a clip. But if LSU can, get better in the red zone, show off that red zone defense we saw in that first half against Arkansas where they had a ton of chances. We only gave them one touchdown. You hold them to field goals, Jaden Daniels will punish the opposition for wasting those opportunities. So if this defense can just be like field goal merchants, keep teams around 21, 24 points, there isn't a team that can beat LSU. Because if they take away the passing game, they're not going to have the legs to take away Jaden Daniels in the running game. If they take away the running game, they're not going to be able to have the legs to stick with Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. running away on these routes. So when I see LSU fans worried about this season, I get it. Every game here is going to be high pressure, high stakes to the ultimate. A playoff game every week, and that's what we love. We love this. This is college football, baby. And I tell you what, there isn't a better team that's more equipped for this kind of gauntlet than this LSU team. After what they went through last year, losing that first game as well, they knew what was going to happen when they lost that second one to Tennessee. They know that feeling. I just can't see this team throwing away this season. And if we do, if we lose 3, 4, 5 games in this season, because I think 2 and an SEC championship victory over Georgia, I think even if we have 2 losses and we're able to beat Georgia in that SEC title game, I think we're in. I think that's the type of season we're looking at here. And so if LSU were to throw that away with like 2 quick losses or something, just 2 weeks of chaos, we will remember this season as a lost opportunity that is going to haunt us. Not as bad as 2011. We were undefeated. Tyrann Mathieu, one of the greatest defenses ever assembled. That was the big one. That was losing a national championship game to your ultimate arch rival. Getting shut out. Nothing can really top that. This would come close, though, in my opinion. Not just because of the expectations. No, I don't care about any of that. I don't care about preseason hype and all that. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying when you look at LSU and when you look at the teams that are on this schedule, from here on out, LSU should, especially if they can figure it out, go undefeated.